My wife cheated on me, so I drove her to the guy's house. So first off, let me tell you, this is a throwaway account. All the names and other stuff are changed because of privacy. Also, this is not my story, this happened to a friend of a friend. To the story. Me and my friends sometimes hang out with a guy we will call Mark. Now, Mark is in his 40s, happily married to a woman. They have 2 kids in their teens. I will tell this story as accurately as possible from what Mark told us. As you all know, married life can many times get boring with 9-to-5 jobs, mundane life in a small-time village. Kids are growing up, so you don't have to look after them 24/7 anymore. So you do what you can to make life interesting. You get a dog, start some hobbies, etc., etc. Or so at least Mark thought. He also thought that his happy little life would last forever. Wrong. Mark found out through the grapevine that while he was playing sports, being at work, trying to break the boring life they were having, his wife, let's call her Mandy, was attending to some hobbies of her own. Hobbies that included getting sweaty and real passionate with another man from a few towns over. At first the rumors didn't bother him, they were rumors after all. But something in Mandy's behavior started to change. No more funny time with Mark, she started to get distant, no more talking, just yelling, being annoyed, etc., etc. It went on for a few months. This struck Mark as off, and one time after we were done playing soccer, he asked us what to do. We came up with several advice, like confronting her. But Mark didn't want to ruin his marriage over some mood swings and a rumor. So he did what every sane man would do. He set up cameras all through the house. And I am talking PI quality stuff here. He had cameras in the bathroom, living room, their bedroom, basically everywhere but the room of his children. He updated us on his new hobby and his setup, and things cooled off for a few weeks. After a few weeks after soccer time, we went out for a few beers. Mark wasn't quite himself, so we inquired what was wrong. He told us that he, after several nights of reviving tape, found out that Mandy indeed was cheating on him. He was furious. They were married 20+ years, they were high school sweethearts with 2 boys, and she betrayed him. Now comes the revenge part. He didn't confront her right ahead. Mark formulated a plan. Living only a few towns over, he had no problem getting the guy's phone number. Now you all know those pesky advertising companies who call you to get you to buy products, right? Mark pretended to be one and called the guy with the pretense he was selling him some body cleansing pills and other crap. He knew the guy was overweight, and being quite a smooth talker, he didn't have much problem getting him hooked. He got the guy's first and last name, which he already knew, his address, SSN, job address, and some other stuff that doesn't really matter to the story. He told the guy he was in a ballot for different prizes from the company he was working for, and he would stay in touch in case the guy won anything. After that, came part 2. While Mandy was at work on a Friday, he packed all the stuff she owned, clothes, jewelry, collectibles and other stuff, into their family car. They have a VW Touran, so everything she had easily fit in. When Mandy came home from work, he told her they were going on a trip. At first she was against it, but again the smooth talking convinced her to roll over pretty quick, and she got in the van with him. Before that, he took the boys to one of our friends' house. They weren't 18 yet, and he is a responsible father, and off they went. Where did they go, you ask? Remember how he called the guy Mandy was cheating with? I think you know the answer. Sadly, or very hilariously, Mandy had no clue. He took her, all of her belongings, to the guy's address and called him on the way, telling him to come outside. He said he won the first prize and he was on his way to give it to him personally. Mandy still had no clue. She thought he was just pranking one of his friends. I believe you realized by now that she isn't the brightest one in this world. Imagine her and Guy's face when he rolled into the parking spot of Guy's house. He stepped out of the car, shook the guy's hand and told him, "Here is your prize, sir, I believe you know what it is." Took one last look at Mandy's white face and walked off. He got custody of both kids since he was better off than her, also told the judge she was cheating and that's why he was divorcing her. This all happened last year, and as far as we know, the guy was an A-grade asshole and she left him soon after that, after a few beatings and some trips to the ER/police station. Mark got over her after some time and a lot of alcohol, but he and his boys are doing great. They were both big enough to realize their mom was at fault, and still barely talk to her when they go to visit. She tried to return into Mark's life on a few occasions, but he did the smart thing, told her to duck right off. He told us this story after we went out for a few beers after soccer again. I was laughing so hard imagining the whole thing I had to go to the bathroom, otherwise I would have peed myself. I hope you enjoyed this story as much as we did. Edit, it's not a SSN, we are not from USA. Since many people got hung up on it, it's a tax number and I assume he asked for it to sound more believable. Edit 2, fixed some spelling errors. A lot of people are reading a lot into every detail how I presented Mark's story. For instance, how he got all of her stuff into one car. Well, of course he couldn't, and maybe he got some movers afterwards. Just imagine the van being packed with stuff for a trip, whatever floats your boat. I said I am reading this from memory, so some things may not add up to your careful eyes. Be warned. I also wasn't at the court hearing for custody, but the kids live with him and they visit the mother every other weekend. I asked them how it is and they said it's pretty petty between her trying to get their approval and trying to convince them she was not at fault. They are 16 and 17 years old now, so I believe them. I guess I am sorry for doing that. Lastly, this story is fake just because he got the rights to the kids? I know how things are in the USA, but as far as I know, judges here take into account everything. They rather give them to the person who is more equipped to take care of them. That includes salary, where they live, how they act in court. Get off your USA high horse, since not all governments are female-centered and corrupt. My wife cheated on me in our basement while I was at home. I, 37M, found out my wife, 33F, has been cheating. Confronting her about it has opened up other horrible truths. I've been with my wife for 16 years. Married for almost 14. We have 2 daughters. One is mine biologically. The other is mine in every other way. I love them all with all of my being. A few weeks ago, I took my wife to get her eyebrows microbladed, a source of great insecurity for her. During which I hope to enjoy a night of dining and fun in the city. Just to enjoy each other's company on a rarely enjoyed date night. While she was enduring the procedure, she left her phone with me. After a bit, a notification popped up. It was my step-daughter. Even though I'm completely unaware on how to use Snapchat, I thought it would be fun to surprise her with a response from Dad instead of Mom. It took a few minutes, but I was able to fire off a goofy picture back to her. After sending, I somehow stumbled in her chat section. At first glance, it was nothing. But then I noticed a name. A name I've always hated. We'll call him Bob. I hesitated at first, never wanting to be that type of guy who snoops through her phone, but curiosity got the best of me. I was floored by what I saw. Detailed conversations about a tryst they had recently. The details of which I will mostly keep silent. But let's just state that it was about B-Job. I couldn't help but to continue reading. It was difficult for several reasons. The obvious betrayal set aside, as I've learned about Snapchat, portions will delete automatically. So the dates jumped wildly, and details were sparse from the past. What I did learn was that it had happened a few times over the past few months, including on my birthday as I slept upstairs. I work very early. I know at my age birthdays aren't as exciting or important. That's aging for you. But it stung a little extra for sure. In between the flirting and details were pictures, nothing too graphic, but certainly problematic, and probably the most hurtful was how she talked about me. Certainly not much positive, and at best only half true, and at worst just blatant lies or misleading statements. She got to a moment for a break in her procedure, so I put the phone down. Visibly shaken, she asked what was wrong. Not wanting to cause a scene in public or involve the poor girl doing the procedure in our mess, I just told her I wasn't feeling well and wanted to get some fresh air. I spent the rest of the procedure, about 2 hours, walking downtown trying to figure out what steps to take next. After the procedure, I told her we'd have to put a hold on the other plans to both of our dismay. Intending to discuss things when we got back home, once we reached our car, I couldn't hold back. I told her everything I saw. I told her not to touch her phone because I wanted to talk to her about it point by point, and didn't want her removing or deleting anything anywhere from her phone. We cried and screamed all the way home. Once home, we set the kids up, and we went to our room where I dove in headfirst. I had her unlock her phone and give it to me, which she eventually did, very reluctantly. That's where it got even harder. She admitted to the infidelity with Bob in the basement on multiple occasions. But as I dove deeper in the phone, I found out a couple of other issues. It turns out that while we were dating, before we were married, she had been with a friend in college that I always feared, but she had always denied. She insists, the same with Bob, that they did not have intercourse. Only B-job, making out, etc. A contentious subject as we seem to disagree on the definition of sex. Hearing this, my mind ran away, and I began to ask about any and every situation where I feel she might have been able to cheat. Nothing too serious, except one. One night years ago after work, she didn't come home until almost 2 a.m. I remember asking where she had been. She told me she was out. Nothing more. Despite my worries, in my new relationship naivety, I let it go for the time being. But it always lingered in the back of my mind, and burst out that night. As I asked, in between anger and hurt, she suddenly tightened up. She started crying, and I assumed that this was the one that would end our relationship. Instead, without going into detail in fairness to her, it was the story of her sexual attack that she had never told anyone. She cried. I cried. We held each other forever. I felt like the world's biggest a-hole, while simultaneously hurt and betrayed from the other stories of her actual infidelity outside the attack. I assured her that the attack wasn't her fault, and that despite my feelings now, that I would certainly never hold that against her. What piece of crap would? We stopped the fighting at that point as we were both worn out. Over the next few days, we tried to be cordial and mend fences where possible. The problem was that, as is abundantly clear above, I'm not social media savvy. I don't use them terribly often, if ever. Well, she is, and has quite a large following across several platforms. She has been using those platforms to create sympathy for herself. Not giving details, but using cryptic messages about how sad she is, how everything is ruined, how bad her depression currently is. Now our friends are sympathetic towards her without knowing any details, while I appear to be the unsympathetic husband who makes her miserable. I've seen comments about how I may be the problem. Now I know I'm not free from any blame here. I work a lot. Strange hours sometimes. I've had to move my disabled mother and brother in with our family to take care of them, which she has been truly helpful with. I'm also currently dealing with health issues of my own. And I can admit that because of these things, I've not been the most attentive husband for her emotionally or sexually. I have tried, but it's difficult sometimes as life gets in the way. But the fact is that I wanted to. I'm just not sure if she does. And I don't feel that it justifies her infidelity. I'm at a loss here. It seems that every direction I look is the wrong one. I don't want to lose my wife. I don't want to lose my girls. I don't want to walk away from her when she needs me, as her sexual attack revelation has taken a toll on her that no woman deserves. But I also don't want to sit back and be a sucker. To get belittled and betrayed, just to brush my shoulders of and say it's no big deal. I'm lost and have nobody else to turn to here. So I took the terrifying step that I'm completely uneducated on, and came here. Do I file for divorce, seeing as how this seems to be a troubling trend? Do I stay with my wife, despite the betrayal, and try to learn to be a better husband for her in her time of need? Should I tell my friends and family to save face and reveal the truth, or would that be considered as shaming her? Please help. I don't know what to do. Edit 1, I've seen it pop up a few times. I was sort of expecting it. But her attack story is true. I'm not one to share much publicly, but I am as sure as anyone can be that wasn't an eyeball witness. It happened. That explanation will have to suffice, and I will be ignoring comments suggesting otherwise. I admit that I'm the one who asked for advice, but her attack happened. That part is settled. Edit 2, I took pictures of the conversations they had, and that we've had. I'm compiling the evidence just in case, and to keep her honest. Edit 3, this one is on me. When stating that it was B-job, I meant she was on the receiving end. She claims that and making out was it. The conversations I've saved also seem to support that. However, I'm not necessarily convinced that was all, but I have no proof otherwise. Edit 4, alright. I'm going to take a break until tomorrow. This is all a little overwhelming. I appreciate all of the comments and advice. Even the ones condemning me to a life of cu*coldry. I knew everyone would have different and strong opinions. That's what I wanted to hear. I know my marriage is likely over. It's just hard to so casually throw away something you've spent half of your life building. I'll post an update if anything happens. My friend needed a place to stay for a few weeks. I helped him. Found out my wife cheated on me with him in our home. My wife cheated on me 10 years ago, got involved with a bad AP. I was at a low point, she saw greener grass and left me. Initial perspective, that AP got her into trouble, jail for 6 years, then another bad one writing to her while in jail. She got out in about 3 years ago and immediately started a life with him. Until 4 months ago. Now she has fully apologized and wants me back, I think. Help! That's the mega short version. Too long version below, your read is unbelievably appreciated. I cannot sleep or work. I need help. I'm thorough to a fault and going through some extreme confusion. Apologies if long, it's been a long time coming and too many tears wondering about this for the past week. IDGAF. It's time. Story, my so and I met in high school, my first, not her first that was taken from her. And had the perfect relationship for 7 years before marriage. We even talked when we were 20 about waiting a few more years to get married to be sure, so we did, so happily, it was perfect. Got married in 2007. We both were 22, worked together, again great team/couple, for years and we were very happy. I ended up getting offered a promotion/raise to move to another state, that we both wanted to do. I did everything I could for her every single day. Chivalry is not dead with me, she got flowers for no reason whatsoever. Never a dead one if I could help it. This never ended. Anyway, I let her take, initially, 6 months off of work because she loves the idea of the domestic housewife way of living. She was also down to work for us if needed. Regardless of that, one day about 6 months after moving, her mother called me at work to tell me that my wife's father had died and wanted me to break the news. They never fully accepted me, until they realized that I am true to her, so this was difficult to think about and do. I really feel this is what may have started resentment. I had lost too many people already and had read about how devastating hearing that kind of loss from a so can be. Unfortunately, I had a back trauma in 2002 and was prescribed to pills at this point. We both began using them, young stupidity and depression from her father's passing. She began to hang out with some of our new friends, mainly guys, at our place at night, as I was sleeping to go to work. One of them needed a place to stay for a few weeks. He was a friend of mine as well with similar interests. I have a big heart and said it was fine. I had a feeling that they had been screwing around and kicked him out, him still asking for a handout. She was acting as if he was a bother. I found out later the reason he was looking at my so, confused, while I was kicking him out. Fast forward 18 months, she's checked out of the marriage and I know it, but loved her too much to let her go, until she straight up told me I wasn't enough and left with her A.P. at the time. I found out the guy I let stay with us was the first and there was one other, then the A.P. she left me in trouble/in jail 6 months later, pills and stealing with new AP she was in for 6 years. We were still both on pills when she went in, but she had gotten way worse and definitely fueling her actions. We still weren't talking aside from me confirming what happened and the A.P. then laughing at me. I've had a couple of one-night stands in 14-year relationship. None of it meant anything. I've loved one person on this planet and I don't care to screw around. I never stopped sending her a "hey, have a good birthday" message to her on that day. Most with no reply. Until this year. 2+ months ago. She was fresh off of breaking it off with a guy that was treating her like trash, and I think that he was preying on her the whole time, as she was in jail and they wrote back and forth to begin a relationship. She's absolutely beautiful and he was willing to share that. It turns out that screams being used to me, but I guess not her. I found this out BC after the birthday message. She kept in touch some. Nothing romantic until this past Thursday it got there. She called, yes, a phone call, to apologize. I appreciated it so much, but I needed to see it. She just so happened to be 4 hours away that next night. I booked the last room in town just to drive and talk for about 5 hours total. She cried, showed true remorse for the first time and a willingness to change. She realizes now after being betrayed what pain she must have caused me, as it was so much worse. Saying that it was all caused from losing her father and seeking anything that would make her happy. He was a daddy's girl, and the timing lines up perfectly. She was all over me but I couldn't interact, it hurt too much to hear and remember everything. But checked all of the boxes of a psychology article I read regarding someone giving a true apology. It ended with her saying, "I'm so sorry. I don't deserve anything from you, but thank you and I truly love you and always will." She broke me all over again while healing at the same time. We are still talking on the phone and building on that foundation, and she knows she has to prove to me that I can trust her. But she's not as engaged as I am and that worries me. Probably for no reason. She said she has had trouble sleeping, too, but we didn't elaborate. It's difficult to show feelings without feeling like I'm preying on her emotions from a recent breakup, but with how she was acting, I cannot just sit back and wait. It's my wife. She even said last night that she spoke to her sister, again, family didn't like me, who began crying when she heard I drove to her sister, saying that she always felt we were soulmates and wishes hers would do what I did. My wife was crying at this point, too, telling me, but trying to hide it. And chokingly said she's right. I cannot wait anymore. I need to know what's going on. She wants me to come help her get rid of the pain meds that she got prescribed to for an arm trauma next week. She lost use of 2 fingers and major nerve pain in her arm. I would bathe her every single day if she stayed true to me. It would be just us for 3 days with minimal discomfort for her. She's got her head on straight. I've been through it 1000x BC of my back. I get it, and again, big heart, wanna help. I've heard 3 days, isolated, can change everything. I'm going to stop rambling. Please, any advice or questions are welcome, but this is what I'm going through and I need to focus on work. Again, her and I would still make an amazing team and she wants to. Professionally and romantically, but obviously taking it slowly at first. What do I do? Do I take my wife back by going to help? Oddly, Forex filing in court rejected every time for stupid reasons. Or do I tell her no and that I'm not here for her? She doesn't have anyone positive around her right now and is vulnerable. I can tell she's hesitant, but I'm her husband, right? Ugh. This is destroying me, guys.